Raider Nation, wake up and get ready because it's time for the morning grind on the official Raiders Podcast Network.
Good morning, Raider Nation. I'm Eddie Paskal, and today is January 12th, 2021. And on this date, back in 2002, the Silver and Black defeated the New York Jets 38-24 in the wild card round of the playoffs at the Network Associates Coliseum in Oakland. On the shoulders of Rich Gannon's 2-touchdown performance and an incredible 158 yards on the ground from Charlie Garner, head coach John Gruden's team sailed by the Jets and lived to fight another week in the postseason. Well, returning to the present, and the Raiders are not one of the 8 teams left in the field to play for the Lombardi Trophy this year, and while that reality in and of itself is disappointing, keeping it positive, this means we can start to really look at the 2021 NFL Draft set to be held in Cleveland. And while there will be plenty of time between now and April 29th to break down exactly what Mike Mayock and John Gruden should do when they get on the clock, today on the Morning Grinder, we're just going to give you a quick history of the 17th pick. Who got picked there last year? When was the last time the Raiders picked at that spot? And insert dramatic pause. And more. All right, everybody, we have a lot to get to today, so let's get to it. Alrighty, so let's just start with the things that we do know right now and give a little context to what we're going to be talking about today. First things first, the 86th NFL Draft will be held from April 29th to May 1st in Cleveland, Ohio, and by virtue of their 8-8 record and absence from the postseason tournament this year, the Silver and Black will select at number 17 overall in the first round. And at first glance, you might be thinking to yourself, man, 17? 17? What are we going to be able to do at 17 overall? And I understand that thought. I really do. When you look at the draft board, the Raiders kind of find themselves in that no man's land of being outside the top 10, really being outside the top 15, while still being in the market for some immediate playmakers come next season. But fear not, Raiders fans, because if we look at recent history, we discover that if you're going to pick somewhere in the mid to late first round, number 17 isn't a bad place to be at all. In fact, we only have to look back at the most recent draft for evidence of value at 17. CeeDee Lamb, the talented wideout from Oklahoma, was selected by the Cowboys in the first round of the 2020 NFL Draft. And while the Dallas offense had no shortage of ups and downs this year, Lamb really did put together a nice rookie campaign, finishing with 74 catches, 935 yards, and 5 touchdowns. The year previous, the New York Giants selected at number 17, and they went defensive, picking Clemson defensive lineman Dexter Lawrence. And while Lawrence's stats aren't otherworldly at this point in his young career, he does have 6.5 sacks, though, to be fair. The athletic lineman has become a staple on the Giants' defense, appearing in all 32 games and starting 31 of them since the Giants brought him aboard. And our final entry in the You Can Find Really Good Players at Number 17 book, because I don't really want to bore you all, comes courtesy of the division rival Chargers in 2018. That year, the Bolts selected a hard-hitting safety from Florida State named Derwin James, and while James missed the entirety of the 2020 season due to injury, when number 33 is on the football field, plain and simple, he is a playmaker and one of the best safeties in the NFL. So there you have it, everyone. While the number 17 slot might not be the flashiest, teams can undoubtedly, without question, find good and sometimes really, really good players there. Now it is just up to Mayock and Gruden to find those players in question. Now, I told you guys I'd give you a bit of a history lesson, so as promised, before we get out of here, let's do a little bit of research on what the Raiders have done historically in the past when they've picked at number 17, as I clear my voice for emphasis. This year will mark the 5th time the Silver and Black have picked at number 17 overall, and frankly, they've had pretty good success when they've used that pick before. Most recently, the Raiders picked at number 17 back in 2002, and they drafted Phillip Buchanan, a defensive back from the University of Miami. And while Buchanan's tenure as a Raider had its fair share of highs and lows, he did end up playing a decade in the NFL and tallied 11 interceptions for the Silver and Black before he was ultimately traded. And no disrespect to Mr. Buchanan, but what the organization did with the 17th overall pick back in the year 2000 will quite literally go down in the history books of not only the team, but the NFL as a whole, because with that pick, Al Davis rolled the dice on a big-footed kicker, a lefty no less, from Florida State named Sebastian Janikowski. We could do a whole episode of the show, probably more if we're being honest, about the living legend Seabass, but I think I speak for all of us when I say that pick worked out pretty well for both parties. And here's the thing. There is a legitimate argument to be made that Janikowski wasn't even the best player the Raiders selected at 17, because back in 1967, the Silver and Black selected Gene Upshaw out of Texas A&I. Throughout his career as a Raider, Upshaw appeared in 217 games en route to making 7 Pro Bowls, being named an All-Pro 5 times, winning a few Super Bowls, and ultimately earning the highest honor in the game and being enshrined in Canton in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't do complete work and say that the first time the Raiders selected at number 17, they picked center Ed Pine out of Utah in 1962. But considering Mr. Pine never played a game for the Silver and Black, Seabass and Gene Upshaw are the creme de la creme at this slot for the Silver and Black. So like I said, while I might not be a top 3 or even a top 10 pick, the Raiders will have a bevy of options at their disposal when they eventually get their time on the clock. So who will be the 5th Raider of all time selected at number 17? I have a feeling we will discuss that a lot over the coming weeks and the coming months, but we won't know for sure until Roger Goodell makes the announcement on April 29th. I'm Eddie Paskal, and this was The Morning Grind.
Thank you for listening to another episode of The Morning Grind on the official Raiders Podcast Network.
Las Vegas.
Since starting Allegiant some 20 years ago, we've flown more than 100 million people to be with those they love. We're pilots, flight attendants, and technicians, but we're also parents, spouses, and neighbors. And just like you, we're excited to reconnect with the people and places that matter most. That's why we're going the distance for health and safety, on the ground and in the air. Because the further we go now, the safer it'll be to go farther tomorrow. Allegiant, the official airline of the Las Vegas Raiders. Low fares, nonstop flights, only at Allegiant.com.